Welcome to The Founder Factor, where we'll dig into the strategies, ideas, and mindsets of South Carolina's most impactful entrepreneurs. So if you're looking to unlock your next business breakthrough, you've come to the right place. Today, we're joined by Austin Jones, co-founder of Daedalus Industrial. All right, hey, Austin, thanks for joining us today. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks for having me.
Cool, so we'll dig right in. Tell me a bit about what sparked the decision to start Daedalus.
Yeah, so I was working for my family's textile company, Materials Management, in 2007, and was getting a little bored as the years went by. So I went to business school and started a couple small little ventures, and nothing really clicked for me, and had an opportunity to buy the building next to Materials Management. So I jumped at that, and in the process, I realized that basically everything in the building was up for sale. And so I made an offer for all the assets and decided I would try to start a new business with that stuff. But I kind of forgot the most important part, I guess, which is that you're supposed to have an idea of what you're going to do before you start a business.
Yeah, that seems important.
Yeah. Everybody says that you should, have something you're passionate about or find a hole in the market that you think you can fill. And I didn't do any of that. So anyways, I had these assets, and I kind of set out to figure out what I could actually do with the equipment and the employees and the tribal knowledge and everything. And at that point is when I realized that there was a hole in the industry, in the data center industry, doing essentially construction upgrades on their facilities. And we started building a team in the most bootstrap way possible to support this industry that was growing at such a rate that there was no support from an infrastructure standpoint. So they were actively seeking out vendors, and just kind of being willing to step in and throw your hat in the ring was kind of all it took to at least get a meeting. So we got a meeting, and then I built a team, and we got to work. And since then we've become a pretty niche company in the data center industry, doing controls upgrades for their facilities. So that's the very short version.
Yeah, cool. So it sounds like you kind of went the opposite direction than most people go. You found the equipment, and then you kind of evolved into the niche from there.
Yeah, for sure. Zig when everyone else zags.
Yeah, no kidding. So how long did you feel like it took you to fall into step with what the company was about? Like, how long did it take you to define the mission and figure out what it exactly was that you were doing?
Yeah, so it happened in the first year. And again, with the idea of we were kind of working it backwards. I have a partner, Buff Williams, and he and I sat down in the office, and we were like, all right, what can we do with this stuff, right? How much money do we have until we run out and this little idea stops working? And we just started brainstorming, and we had some bad ideas, and we had some really bad ideas. And then I was like, hey, I know a guy, and he works in the big data industry, and we're manufacturing guys. And so we kind of figured that automation and data was a big thing going forward. So I said, let's try to get a meeting. And so I reached out and said, hey, I've got this new automation company with some potential. I'd like to get a meeting. And he said, yeah, come on. So we did that all in the first year. Wow,
that's incredible. So can you tell me about what your first sale was like? How did that meeting go when you were going out on the limb the first time?
So the first big sale, right? So we have this, we'll call it a company, but it's really we have a bunch of assets. We have some employees doing some very entry-level work to kind of keep the lights on. And we have an opportunity to meet with a very large data company. That's really all that we know. My contact kind of gave me some insight on the kind of work that we would have to be able to do. So we reached out to people that we knew that were specific kinds of engineers, and we were like, hey, we're going to go to DC. We're going to have a meeting with this company who's looking for new vendors, and we're going to try to get the job. And they're like, well, that's great and all, but I work for Fluor, or I work for Jacobs. And I'm like, don't worry about that. Take a week off if you can. I'll fly you up there. I had a bunch of Southwest Airlines points, and we used them all. I was like, we'll go eat steak. It's a national championship. We'll have fun. Help me sell this. And when we're done, if we get it, you can go back home and no big deal. Or you can come work for me. Maybe you'll make an impression. Maybe it'll work. Maybe not. So we convinced about 6 guys to go with us, fly up there, get some branded shirts and everything. And we paid them for their time. So they were our employees. And we pitched our services that we still hadn't fully honed in, that we could do electrical engineering. We could do controls engineering. We understood facility controls. We did not understand any of this stuff, but we kind of figured that we could figure it out. And so anyways, we had this meeting and we clicked with the guys at this company. It wasn't so much that they were impressed by our non-existent resume of projects that we had never done. They liked the fact that we were up there and we were actively trying to get in the door and that we were willing to hustle. And we brought up some creative ideas during the brainstorming session of ways that we thought we could solve their problem, which were things different than they had heard from anyone else. And we just happened to have an audience with some folks that were looking for creative solutions to their problems and were willing to kind of roll the dice on us. But they were only so willing to support us because we didn't have any credibility, right? So, but what they did have was they had a really bad job that nobody else wanted, that was really complicated in a really rural part of Virginia that wasn't going to get done. And it was kind of no risk for them because if it didn't work, nobody else was going to do it anyways. But if it did work, if our concept on how we could containerize and package their controls upgrade into a shipping container did work, it was going to be a huge savings for them. So that was, I guess we kind of skipped over that, but basically our concept was when a data center starts to get at the end of its usable life for their facility controls, their HVAC, their power, their generators, they have a lot of like water cooled stuff. You have to upgrade all of that hardware, but you can't just shut a data center down, right? If it's Black Friday, Amazon's not going to be happy if their servers go down. All of these data centers are entangled with each other around the world. So you have to do these upgrades in a live environment. It's really expensive because you're just basically redundantly wiring stuff up while keeping old stuff going. And then you make a changeover really slowly and really carefully. And it's very expensive because you're doing it on site. Our big disruption was we were going to build this upgrade in our facility and run all of the wires to a single point on the roof and drop a shipping container onto the roof with this big upgrade, throw a switch, and it was going to be, hooray, no problems. We were challenged to do that and to save, I believe, 40% of the cost. And so they gave us this project that nobody would do. It was impossible. And we had no other option but to just do it. We didn't realize that we were being tasked with doing something that you couldn't do because it was the first time we'd ever done anything. So because of that, we weren't constrained by the thought that we might actually fail. Right. We kind of went into it with, this is the way it's going to get done. And this is how we're going to do it. So we developed this product and we took our lumps, but we worked really hard and we got it done and we raised it up and it was a great success. And it got a lot of exposure within that company because we took a job that nobody else would do and we did something totally different. We saved them a pile of money, which is really all that they cared about. Right. And in the meantime, we got a patent on it and we got the ability to do more jobs for that company. And from there it grew and we started getting noticed by other companies in the industry and have created a little bit of a niche for ourselves. That's amazing. Yeah, I'm sure you got a lot of credibility, not only taking on, but succeeding with a project that nobody else wanted to take on because they thought it was an impossible task. So knowing what you know now, is there anything that you would have done differently when you were first starting out? Maybe, probably. I'm not going to kind of go back and say I could have done X, Y, or Z differently because it's kind of antithetical to how I think, right? Mm-hmm. So every wrong decision that we made wasn't really wrong. It kind of put us on the path for the next one. So I don't know what I would have done differently because I only know what we did, which sounds ridiculous to say, but it's kind of a just keep going, just keep moving forward and you're going to get where you need to be. And if you focus on what you did wrong, that is wasted time that you could have kind of switched back and focused on what you need to do right to keep going. Right. Makes sense.
So then how have your
cop out, right?
No, it's totally fair. You can never really say,
Yeah.
if I had done this differently, it would have, who knows how it would have ended up if
You don't know
done
what would
anything
have happened
differently.
after that.
Yeah, exactly.
So
how have your priorities or say your mindsets changed over the course of the last few years with this business?
I don't think they have. I mean, it's maybe they should, but I really don't. It's kind of ingrained in who we are as a company, right? So much of our identity as a company is really based around how we handled that first meeting, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot of, figure it out, work really hard, don't quit. Just don't stop. Just figure it out and move on to the next thing. You're going to make mistakes. And we made a lot of mistakes. But when we made mistakes, we got to work fixing them. We didn't, fixate on them.
Is there anything that you use to infuse that sort of spirit in your employees today?
Well, I mean, it really is part of our culture.
Yeah.
We do a lot of team building exercises. We do a lot of employee engagement stuff, which I think everybody does, but we try really hard to live it. So part of our onboarding process is we have the typical, you meet with HR, you meet with your supervisor, you see where you're going to work, you do all that. But the last thing that a new hire does when they come to work for us, and we try to do this quarterly because it's not feasible to do it every single time, but is I have a meeting with the 2, 3, 4, 5 employees who happen to be new that quarter, or just one. I mean, if it's just one, that's fine too. And I kind of go through with them a very short, hey, this is who we are as a company. Let me learn about you as a person. Let's get to know each other. And these are our 5 core values, right? Our roadmap for success, whatever you want to call it. And so much of everything we do is built around those 5 things, because when we set all that up, it wasn't let's come up with a mission statement or a vision statement, or let's come up with our roadmap to success. It was, hey, let's debrief on who we are as people. Let's talk about who we are as individuals, as businessmen, and the values that we have and how we've built a company around who we are. And let's put that in writing, because if we're going to try to live something, it needs to be something that we're actually going to live. And then we can impart that onto people so that if we are not living up to it, we can get called out. And I think that's really important.
This podcast is brought to you by Designly, South Carolina's top-rated app development company, and Word of Web, your partner in smarter website strategy and design. Yeah, that's a really interesting approach, looking at both the personal aspect and then looking at the business culture more generally, and you can't really have one without the other.
Yeah. I mean, and I can tell you what they are if you want to.
Let's hear it.
I feel like that's where we're leading. So I tell people that the order isn't super important except for the first and the last one. The first one is to be positive. And I think that's really, really important. I think that it's really important to frame your day, your decisions from a positive place. You get to choose. You don't get to choose what happens to you, but you get to choose kind of your mindset and how you react to it. And it's really easy to focus on negative. And you have to consciously sometimes say, hey, I'm going to do this in a positive way, right? So anyways, step 1 in the roadmap, core value 1 is to be positive. It's really important. And I've gotten called out on that before because, if I'm walking through the warehouse and I have my head down and I'm trying to get somewhere quick and somebody whistles at me and tells me to smile, I know exactly why, right? And so if I'm not in a good mood, I'm like, this dude is totally right. I'm busted. I need to smile. Let's treat me like, one of my kids. So be positive. Number 2, be transparent, right? There's within our organization, we are very open with our employees about how things are, what's going on. We count on these people to help us run and grow this business. And so if we count on them for that, we kind of owe it to them to be honest about how things are, good and bad, right? So if things are if you're always sunshine pumping and telling everybody that things are really good, they're not going to believe you, right? But if you kind of shoot them straight, they're going to believe you when you say this is good and this is bad. And so it just helps build credibility within the team, both directions. expect everybody to be positive and be transparent with us. And the only way that you can do that is to give it right back to them. The next two are manage your relationships, up, down, left, right, who you're working with, who you're working for, your vendors, and manage your resources. Those are kind of the businessy ones of the two, but they're important, right? You got to take care of all of the stuff that you're working with and all of the people that you're working with to make this all work. And then the final one is execute and just get it done, right? So the example that I always give is you got to do that one no matter what. Just period. This what Daedalus is. We get it done. Sometimes it's painful, but we're going to get it done. We're not going to be a company that fails. We're not going to make that call that we failed. And how do we square up the invoices? It's just not going to happen. So it's a lot easier to execute if you've been positive and if you've been honest and if you've managed your relationships and if you've managed your resources accordingly. It's a lot harder to execute if you've just been super negative and you've told a bunch of fibs and half-truths along the way, and you've done a really bad job of managing whatever relationships you've been tasked with and whatever resources that you've been handed to allocate in the job. Again, if you come from a place of you have to execute, you might as well hit 1, 2, 3, 4, do those right, because 5 is going to be so much easier. Right. And I always end that meeting with a new hire with, hey, I'd challenge you at any point that you're working here. If you have a problem that you don't think that we can solve kind of following that roadmap, bring it to me. And I've never heard one. There's nothing you can come across in life that you can't fix by kind of following that process. I believe that. Because I have messed a lot of stuff up and used those steps to kind of get it right back on track. Right.
What do you feel like is the riskiest or scariest decision that you've made in the business?
And I don't know. I mean, they're all really risky and scary. That's what makes them fun. I don't know. It's probably something really just really dumb, like changing healthcare providers because I didn't want to upset the employees, who had to change their prescriptions, because those are the things that I probably stress over a little bit more than, taking a big swing. Taking a big swing, I'm comfortable with. Taking a risk, I'm okay with that because I can weigh out ultimately if it fails or succeeds, I'm the one that took the swing and made the decision. So I can live with that. But when I start making decisions that are going to impact the employees, like I said, something silly like changing our health insurance provider, I would probably lose sleep over that before I would, a big sales pitch.
Right.
Because again, the folks that work with us are the reason why we're successful. So
do you feel like you've had a specific aha moment that you can look back on that really influenced the trajectory?
Just in life?
Daedalus. We'll limit the scope. I'm sure you could talk about life decisions all day long too.
With Daedalus?
That'll be the next question. We'll get to life after this.
Oh, okay. I mean, it's probably all goes back to that same moment of, we saw an opportunity and we took the first step, right? The aha moment was the people who were going to be successful, we're going to get a chance, are just the ones who were willing to step out and give it a shot. So in that first meeting with that first big data company, it was just us not being afraid. I mean, what was the worst that was going to happen? They were going to tell us no. I mean, and we were going to leave. All I was going to do was be out my 100,000 Southwest Airlines points. And, so what? Southwest doesn't go anywhere cool anymore anyways.
Good point. Well said.
So it was win-win.
Right. Now, you sounded like you wanted to maybe offer the life version of that response too.
I figure we were going to go. I mean, it's...
Yeah. Let's hear it.
Business is fun and all, but I mean, I like to think that a lot of who I am is not, just business stuff. But so your question originally was, what was the aha moment of life? And I always kind of circle back to the moment that I think was a little more transformative for me. And it was back when I was in college and I got dismissed academically. And it was because I was having a lot of fun in college, which is a rare story that you never hear anyone having. So I left college and I went and got a job at a cement mill, working in the middle of the night, living with my parents at 22 years old. And it was downright awful because I had friends who were doing cool things like going to law school and starting their careers. And I was living in my dad's house, going to work at a cement mill, putting sticky dirt in bags all night, which was a great job. And I don't want to, like, I'm not dogging that out. I actually really enjoyed that job. It was physically very demanding, but it wasn't a job that I would have chosen for myself, but it was a really important moment for me because I had a choice. It was like the first time that I got to really make my adult choice and to start to follow my roadmap. And I was like, you know what? All of this that's happening, I can either be, upset and grumpy and kind of pity myself, or I can just accept that this is where things are. And I can say, hey, this is a really cool job that pays really well because this is a hard work that's super dangerous. And I can afford to go back to school and I can take it a little more seriously and I can start, taking the lessons that I've learned and not make those mistakes again. And so that was my aha moment was when I got kicked out of school and realized, one, that going to school at 18 is a stupid idea. And I do not recommend it to people if they have another option, because I feel like you're not ready. But I got to fail really big at as big as like a college age kid can fail and learn how to come back from it. And that has been so important for me because I'm not afraid of making a mistake or failing, because if I do, I know that you just keep going. You just kind of take another step and you keep going, you go another path, and it's going to be okay. And that's been really important. And I'm really glad that I went through that. And I don't want to say that I think everybody should go through that, because it's not an easy thing to go through, but I think that it's been really important, and knowing kind of how to fail will help you understand how to succeed, in my opinion.
Yeah. So were you still working at the mill then when you went back to school?
Yeah, absolutely. I was working.
Wow.
We typically worked 50 or 60 hours a week. So I was working from 5 p.m. to 5 a.m. And I would get off work and I would rush home. And I was living like 45 minutes away from our work because, again, I was living with my parents. So I didn't have any say in this. And the whole goal was to get in bed before the sun came up, because that would really mess with my sleep.
Yeah.
And I would get 4 or 5 hours of sleep. I would wake up. I would work on school. I had about 14 months of school that I had to finish with no breaks in order to get a bachelor's degree. So I would do that, and then I would stop and I would get some food and go to work and do it all over again. I was showering at work. I would only shower at home on the weekends. I would have enough time to do that. But for the most part, I was at work, at school, or asleep in a bed.
That is a crazy
Or asleep
schedule.
in my truck.
Oh, man. So what was your mindset about your career at this point? Like when you were in school for the second time, working at the mill, what did you think you wanted to do?
At that point, I had to prove to myself that I actually could succeed.
Yeah.
So the mindset was, let's finish this degree. Let's see where this company that I'm working with, maybe they have a career path for me. And if not, I'm getting, it's good experience. I mean, I'm in an industry, but ultimately I got to finish my school. So that's what I did. I finished school. I got a job offer from the company that I was working for that was going to send me to live overseas, which was a really cool opportunity. And I turned it down because I had a death in the family up here in South Carolina. We had a family business and had the opportunity to come over here and try to run a failing family company. So I took that because that would be what nobody else would do. And I'm zigging when everybody's zagging.
Because that's the logical choice, right?
So, yeah, that's right. It's logical to me.
Yeah, right.
So.
Well, let me ask you a wrap-up question here, switching gears a bit, going back to kind of where you are now with Daedalus. Every day you have to make a million different decisions. There's no roadmap for running a business, of course. So what is the non-negotiable in your business that you come back to day in, day out?
What do you mean the like the one thing that I frame every decision in?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, that's a really good question. The big thing with us is that we're going to keep taking steps, right? We're going to keep moving towards something. We're not going to get stagnant. So it's probably that if you don't know what to do, just go, just act, just take a step towards it, right? So I wouldn't say this to a new person who is wandering the shop floor looking for what to do. But yeah, I guess you could, like, hey, if you need something to do, pick up a broom and sweep, right? For us in general, it's just keep moving forward. Just keep taking steps. It's so easy, I think, to fall into this trap of, I don't know what to do, or I don't know what I should be doing, or I'm bored, so I'm going to do nothing, right? Why in the world would you do that? You can be doing something, take steps towards anything. So when people say that they're bored or they don't have any hobbies, I'm so confused. Like, I wish I had 100 lives I could run at the same time so I could do every hobby that there was. Like, just keep moving forward towards something, and you're going to eventually get to the place that you're going to get to, right? It might not be where you were going to initially, but you're going to get where you're going, and you can adapt from there.
Yeah, like you said, it's all about the zigs and the zags.
Right? Finding Nemo, just keep swimming.
Yes, exactly. Well, we'll wrap up on that point, but thanks so much for joining us today, Austin. Really appreciate it. This has been the Founder Factor. You can follow us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.